What's going on, everyone? So in the latest episode, episode 7 of From Season 3, we saw Elgin start to begin his journey that I imagine will take us through the last 3 episodes, right? Because we got 3 episodes left, and I'm really excited to see how this all takes place and how this all unfolds. But Elgin appears that this is kind of the beginning stages, that he ends up going on the journey through the photos and through the Kimono Lady giving him details, likely through the photos. We see the photo, the camera take a picture by itself, and he was kind of using these photos as kind of the breadcrumbs to lead him to where he needs to go. And it takes him to that cellar. And that cellar has had significance and importance dating back to the first season. We've seen like Julie, that's where she ended up escaping from. That's also where Jade saw the man being crushed by the boulder, right? He walks in. All seems calm on the eastern front. He walks in, sees the little cabinet, opens it up. Nothing, after he hears the knocking, thinks, okay, maybe I'm in the wrong place. Maybe this isn't it. Nothing seems to be here. Starts to walk out. All of a sudden, knock, knock, knock. He moves over the little cabinet, and there is a door and a hidden room. Goes into the hidden room, and he finds a body laying in that room. And it looks like somebody's domicile, where somebody maybe was kind of imprisoned in this place, whether it was through deliberate or not, right? Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was whatever. I mean, I dove into the potential of it being Christopher. Could it be Martin, right? There is a lot of possibilities of what that body can be. And there's really only 2 ways that this can go. Either A, that body does hold some form of significance, and that body is somebody that is important, right? Whether it's a character we are already familiar with or a new character that maybe we get some information on later on down the road. Then the other side of that is the body is kind of irrelevant, and it's just the place, right? It's just that cellar room, and the body is just kind of there for aesthetic and to kind of make it creepy, right? Like that I can understand, that I can see. But here's something that I kind of briefly touched on that I want to kind of really expand on even further, because I do think it's a very interesting idea. And what if the body that we see in the cellar on the floor is actually the Kimono Lady's husband? Now, that could be somebody in particular. The video that I touched on that briefly on was the Martin episode, where I said maybe Martin and the Kimono Lady are, what if they were married at some point, right? And they had some type of relationship together, and, Martin ended up getting trapped in the dungeon. Kimono Lady ends up dying, right? And maybe Martin's body was the body that was on the floor, and you saw his, subconscious tied up there, like we saw with Julie and Randall, as well as Marielle, right? Their bodies were one place, but their mind and their subconscious was elsewhere, or their spirit, whatever it was. So much so where Boyd was able to feel and touch and do that. So, I could see something similar, but it also would make sense that it would be kind of have a connection to the Kimono Lady and have a connection very likely to her husband, because the Kimono Lady is the one that led Elgin on this journey, right? The Kimono Lady is the one that spoke to Elgin and led him to that room in the cellar and where the body is. And at first, originally, you think it's got to be her body, but then you realize, no, it's a man's body, right? So it's not the Kimono Lady's body, it is a man's body. Well, if you're going to have some tie-in and connection to the Kimono Lady, why wouldn't she lead Elgin down a path to a body in which was her husband? And maybe that body has some significance, right? Maybe he was the one that was going through the transformation similar to Fatima, because the Kimono Lady, she started popping up with Fatima. So it's very possible that, what if Fatima, because as far as we know, she's not pregnant. Now, could it be kind of a phantom baby like we saw with Boyd and then the worms and all that stuff? Yeah, of course. That's always a possibility. We've already seen that in other elements. Makes sense they would do it in the pregnancy element. I mean, it's even a point that they've kept bringing up. So you can kind of make that make sense, right? Like, but it would also, like, we would assume that, okay, Fatima, she herself is going through the transformation. But if she's really turning into a monster, well, we see all the monsters are male or female, right? Like there's it's not all women monsters, it's not all man monsters, it's men and women monsters. So if you have something where Fatima's having the transformation as a female monster, and you maybe the Kimono Lady, maybe her husband was having a similar transformation, and instead of allowing him to fully transform, maybe she locked him into that room, locked him into that cellar secret room, covered it up, left him to die, and he ended up shriveling up and dying over time. And that was how she was able to prevent him from becoming a monster. It's like, I'd rather see my husband die than become a monster and end up killing a bunch of innocent people, or even myself. And then, she goes about her life, she dies or whatever ends up happening after. And now you get to the point with Elgin, and she is trying to have him walk this path, learn details, learn information on how he can help Fatima, or potentially even kill her. More likely, I think it'll be something where he has to kill her, or tries to kill her, or captures her and maybe throws her in that room. It's kind of where it seems to be heading. Kind of feels like, like he's going to have to capture her, take her into that room, just like that body, whatever that body is that's on the floor, whether it really is her husband or it's a different character or whatever, right? I've even seen people throw out in the comment section that, no, it's Jade, right? Very well could be, right? Could it be a version of Jade or something? There's a lot of people that think like reincarnation and stuff like that. A lot of different ways this show could go. A lot of possibilities that they could go with the show. But I do really like the idea of having that body have some significance. I'm not gonna lie, I'd be a little disappointed if that body was just some random body, right? Like, I'd be a little disappointed if that body was not anything of substance and it was just there for aesthetic purposes. I just feel like it's an opportunity to really kind of expand more on the Kimono Lady and her kind of history, right? Like, who is she? What was she? Was she married? Was she not? I mean, even if it's not like her husband, like a boyfriend or something, or maybe somebody that she met there that she got really close to, just like how Ellis and Fatima didn't go there together. They met there. Like, what if the Kimono Lady and that dead body was Ellis and Fatima before Ellis and Fatima, right? It was it was their story told, but it was in reverse. That instead of the woman turning and the man trying to help her, it was the man turning and the woman trying to help her, right? It's just, you have these polar opposites where, and I think that could be a very interesting kind of way to approach this, because we are already getting the cycles with all of these other characters, right? You're constantly getting cycles, right? Miranda and Tabitha, Christopher and Jay, right? Victor, young Victor, and now young Ethan. And you have these characters that are continuing to be this version that actually, or hopefully, overcome their journey, right? Like they have their levels of the game that they need to complete. And, all the previous ones had failed. It feels like this iteration of the town, of the characters, are the ones that are finally going to succeed, that are finally going to get over the top. And so I could see something where the Kimono Lady and the gentleman in the room, right, the guy with the beard, I could see where they were the previous iteration of Ellis and Fatima, and they just ended up failing. They weren't able to overcome it. And maybe Ellis and Fatima, they're the version in which they will be able to overcome it. They will be able to get kind of over that hump and correct what was not being able to be corrected in the previous times. And instead of these monsters, adding another monster to their group, replacing Smiley, which is something I've talked about heavily, that I really could see Fatima going through her change and transformation because, they took out one of the monsters. And like I've talked about, when when somebody good dies, there's usually a good return, right? Tien dies. She was like the sacrifice for the food. She was the cook. The townspeople were all getting ready to starve to death because they were out of food and they were kind of rationing things and stuff. All of a sudden she dies, and then literally the next morning there's enough food to feed the entire town. Like, I don't think that that's a coincidence, especially when Jim and Kenny walked around and surveyed the entire area to make sure that there was no like monsters or nothing crazy. And then you find all the food, and not only do you find all the food, but like it was like right outside the hut, right? Like Jim like just yelled for Kenny. Kenny walked like 10 steps and then was at the food, right? So I don't think that they just like missed an entire, entire crop. Like I just don't see that. But you've also seen like characters die and get replaced, right? Like, so, you see Colony House just get a bunch of people die. A whole bus shows up, right? Recently, you see like Dale and Nikki die. And you get Henry and Officer Acosta. You get these two characters that now they're kind of the replacements, right? So like, but what happens when a monster dies? What happens when you kill a monster, right? Bad things probably happen. And this whole place has been about breaking Boyd. So how do you break Boyd? You get to his son. So you don't turn Boyd, you don't turn Ellis, you turn Fatima. Fatima dies and or becomes a creature, and now that affects Ellis, and now Boyd's distracted and has to deal with Ellis and him being broken, right? Like you have this kind of snowball effect, in my opinion. But I really do think that there's more to this story. At least I hope that there is more to this story, and I think that you have a real interesting route that you can take with this. But I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see which direction they go with this. But anyway, as always, as a discussion, I pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you think that, the Kimono Lady and that guy, they had to be married? It makes sense that she would kind of lead him on this journey. Do you think, no way? It's got to be something else, or it's got to be another character. Whatever your theories are, whatever your ideas are, I love yours. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.